Today's episode of Chicago Bears Now is presented by Fetch. Go download the Fetch Rewards app and earn points by scanning receipts at chatsports.com/Fetch. 3,000 bonus points when you use the promo code BEARS. All right, today's show, Chicago Bears trade candidates. We're going to take a look at some players that Ryan Poles could opt to trade to either get some draft capital, some cap relief, or ideally both. Let's take a look at the Bears offseason outlook before we get into those specific candidates. Poles did make it pretty clear during his introductory presser that he believes in building rosters through the NFL draft. Well, Bears only have 5 draft picks this year, including no picks in the first or the fourth round. But I think the Bears have some players that they could trade to either add draft picks and obviously clear some cap space as well to give Chicago more flexibility once NFL free agency also gets here. These are the draft picks Chicago currently has. No first, fourth, or seventh round pick. Number 39 overall, number 71 overall. 2 picks in the 5th round. We don't know the numbers yet because comp picks have not yet been added, and then 1 pick in round 6 as well. That's it. Only 5 draft picks for Ryan Poles to work with currently, which is why I think making some trades is definitely on the table. Now, you guys name a player that the Bears should trade away. Any player that you think the Bears currently have should go ahead and trade this offseason. Go ahead and let me know, and then we will jump into 5 players that I believe the Bears could trade this offseason. All right, Bears trade candidates here. At number 1, a guy we talked about a ton last offseason with trade rumors. It's back, baby. Nick Foles, the quarterback who is on his final year of his contract in Chicago. If you are able to trade him, you would save $8 million, which would be huge because he's going to count $10 million against the cap. So you can save 8 of that, which, hey, if he's on your roster and he's your backup quarterback, I don't have a huge issue with that. But if you could save $8 million and then just go get a young, cheap backup for Justin Fields, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I think it's a win-win if he's there. He's a veteran backup that can help Fields and can play in a pinch if he gets hurt. Or you save the $8 million. So you're kind of in a good spot with him. But I think if you could get a day 3 draft pick for Nick Foles, you take that, you take the $8 million salary cap relief, and you run with it if you are Ryan Poles. Will Nick Foles be on the Bears roster next season? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Get your votes in on this one down in the comments. Will Nick Foles be on the Bears roster in 2022? Now, shout out to Fetch Rewards for being our sponsor here at Chicago Bears Now. They've been a proud sponsor for several weeks now, and I've been telling you about this app because it allows you to scan receipts for points, which then you can turn into gift cards. It also allows you to sync up your email and your Amazon account. That way you can get those online receipts converted. Just showed a demonstration of that on this video. You plug in your email address, you plug in your Amazon account information, and you can get those receipts scanned as well. Really user-friendly, no issues at all. I know a lot of us do some online shopping, and even sometimes when I get takeout food, I just opt for the email receipt because, I don't need the physical receipt. Just throw it in the email, boom, that receipt gets scanned. Chatsports.com/Fetch. That is the place to go to download the Fetch Rewards app. It is free, and then you can use promo code BEARS because when you scan that first receipt, if you got that promo code in there, you're going to get 3,000 bonus points. Get started. Link is in the comments. It's in the description. Chatsports.com/Fetch. Promo code BEARS. Next Bears trade candidate here on this video, David Montgomery. And let me just be clear when I say go through these names. Trade candidate doesn't mean this is Harrison Graham's of Bears Now dream list of players to trade. These are guys I think that could be traded. There's some realistic to it. And these are guys that could either fetch you draft picks or salary cap relief. Not necessarily guys I would trade because I probably would not trade David Montgomery. Now, never say never because you could get blown away with an offer. Or if the Bears internally are like, Khalil Herbert's really good, he's 90-95% of the player. I'm not saying that. Maybe the Bears think that. If you can get a 2nd or 3rd round pick for Monty, then, yeah, that's something you have to consider. Now, you guys know me. I've been, the feed Monty train from a couple of seasons ago. I love David Montgomery. He's a leader in the locker room. He's a good player on the field. But the reality is he's a running back. He's playing a position that is expendable. He's got a lot of mileage on his body already through 3 years, and he's on the final year of his contract. You trade him, you save almost $3 million. It's not as much of salary cap relief, I think, would be the play here. I think it would be to get a day 2 draft pick. If you could get a day 2 draft pick, that would be appealing because you could go with Khalil Herbert as RB1. Part of the equation here could be how the Bears feel about Tarik Cohen, if he's going to be back, if he's even going to be healthy. Do you bring back a Damian Williams? Possibly. Again, probably wouldn't do this. I'm just saying this is a guy that you could trade if you don't think you're going to re-sign him after this year. If the Bears make a trade, we're going to break it all down for you guys. We'll probably go live if it's a big enough player. So subscribe, turn on those notifications, join the family. We're currently at almost 43,000 subscribers. Join the movement. This channel is barely over 2 years old, and we're approaching 50,000 subscribers. YouTube.com/BearsNow. Stay tapped in. It's 100% free if you subscribe. Next up is Khalil Mack, the edge rusher who has dealt with some injuries the last couple of years. Obviously, last year only played in 7 games. He was obviously tremendous in those 7 games, had 6 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, a fumble recovery as well. This is still an all-pro caliber player, in my opinion, when he's healthy, but I think the last part of that sentence is real. When he's healthy, he's gotten a little banged up in recent years. If you can get a first-round pick for Khalil Mack, you have to consider it. I know for some of you that'll be tough to hear, but the reality is Ryan Poles believes in building through the draft, and the way you create good depth on your roster is through the draft. You get good players on rookie contracts. The best way of doing that is you have first-round picks. The Bears don't have one this year, so if you can get one for Khalil Mack, you at least have to consider it. Now, the salary cap relief isn't a ton, but this would be a trade for draft capital. That is an absolute fact. Would you trade Khalil Mack for a first-round pick? Curious to see where you guys weigh in on this one. I might put this up as an Instagram poll as well. Type T for trade, type K for keep. Would you trade Khalil Mack for a first-round pick? Similar ilk, Robert Quinn, another edge rusher who had an unbelievable season for the Chicago Bears. I mean, he was tremendous. This kind of came out of nowhere after a disastrous 2020, and we're thinking he's got the worst contract in the NFL. That no longer is the case. 49 tackles, 18 and a half sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 22 quarterback hits. He was tremendous, but I think you got to ask yourself, okay, Quinn's going to be 32 next year, I believe, 31, 32, somewhere in that ilk. You know, are you going to get this production again? I think he can be good. I don't know if he can approach 20 sacks. You trade him, you save almost $4.5 million. Mack only saves you 3 and change, at least before June 1st. You can save a little bit more after June 1st, but you know, post-June 1 trades rarely happen just because free agency and the draft are before, so what's really the point? But I think, like Mack, Quinn would be a trade more so for draft capital than it would be for financial relief. He saves you a little more against the cap if you trade him, but could you get a second? Could you get like a second and a fourth for Quinn? I don't think you're getting a first for Robert Quinn. But, I mean, again, Ryan Poles is a believer in the NFL draft. I expect him to be active in trades this offseason. Trade one, and then the one you don't pick, that's the one you get to keep. Type KM for Khalil Mack. Type RQ for Robert Quinn. If you had to trade one, maybe you pick the one that gets you more in return. That's probably Khalil Mack. Let us know who it is, KM or RQ. Now, I'm throwing Eddie Jackson on here, the safety, and I mentioned post-June 1 trades, they're more unlikely, but I think with him it would have to be a post-June 1st trade because the way his contract works is if you trade him before June 1st, you only save like $1.5 million, but if you trade him after June 1st, you could save $11 million. So you're saying, why would you trade him after June 1st? The draft and free agency already or don't even happen or already done by June 1st. Well, a reason for that would be a couple of reasons. One, we've seen in recent years some free agents wait to sign late in the process, especially veterans, so there could still be guys out there. And two, what a lot of teams do now is they don't sign their draft class officially until after June 1st because they're allowed to cut or trade players to save extra money after June 1st. So you could wait to pay your draft class, you trade Eddie Jackson, and then you clear up some cap to sign your draft picks. So that could be a possibility. It would not be a pre-June 1st trade. I can almost assure you that because it's such a difference in how much money you save pre versus post-June 1. Some long shot trade candidates. I don't think any of these guys are that likely for a variety of reasons. Cody Whitehair, he makes too much money for how he played last year, and it would have to be post-June 1, kind of like Jackson. Don't think it's likely. Tarik Cohen, the reason I don't think he's likely is who's going to trade for him. He hadn't played since week 3 of 2020, so that's going to be tough. And then Eddie Goldman sat out in 2020, played about 35% of snaps this year, wasn't that good. If you can trade him, you can save like $6-7 million bucks. But the reality is again, who wants Eddie Goldman for how much money he makes? So don't think that one's really likely. But these are guys that if you did trade them, it would save you some money. But I think it's unlikely. I think Eddie Goldman is a salary cut candidate more so than a trade candidate. And we will do a cap cut candidates video in the near future as well. So be on the lookout for that. Be sure you guys subscribe. Those are my 5 trade candidates plus 3 bonus ones as well. YouTube.com/BearsNow. Don't miss any of our videos here on the channel because we're just getting started. 2+ years in, we're not slowing down. Join the movement.